All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again tonight. For those of you who are joining for the first time, my name is Janetta, and I am an American who teaches English here in Brazil. And I work for Seed Idiomas here in Caratinga, Minas Gerais. Tonight we're going to be talking about narrative tenses. So different language that we can use to talk about a story, to really get people interested, to grab an audience's attention when we want to speak about a story or a past experience. So let's give everyone a few minutes, maybe like one or two more minutes just to join us. Hello, Gabriel, Lisandra, Anna, Alberto, Tiago. Welcome. Throughout the presentation, throughout the class, if you have any difficulties understanding what I'm saying, if I'm speaking too fast or you're not understanding the content, feel free to place a comment in the box, and then I will be able to see your comments here, and then we can have a discussion, okay? Throughout the class, I'm going to be asking you some questions so that we can really get a lot of participation during this class, because it will make it more interactive and more fun. Hello, Walter and Danielle. Hello, everyone. All right. If you guys see me looking over to my left every now and then, it's just to see your comments, okay? And then I can answer any questions that you have, or we can interact back and forth. All right, good. All right, so let's get started here. Hello, Gabriella, Stephanie, Laura, welcome. All right, so today we are going to be talking about sharing experiences and telling stories through narrative tenses. So some common tenses that we use to make our stories more interesting is we use used to, the past perfect, the past perfect continuous, and the past continuous. During today's class, we're going to take a deep look into all of these different tenses, used to, past perfect continuous, as well as the past continuous. We'll look at examples of the positive, negative, as well as interrogative, and then we'll do some practice in which I'll ask you some questions, and then we can have some responses and see how everything goes. Hello, Joseus, welcome. All right, so let's first take a look at used to. So, used to. We use this expression to talk about habits or repeated actions in the past. But the biggest thing to pay attention to is that we don't do them currently in the present. Okay? So it's something that we did, either a habit or a repeated action, something that happened in the past, but we no longer do it right now in the present. All right? We can also use used to talk about states in the past which are no longer true. So to talk about past events or things that happened in the past, but they're no longer true or no longer applicable to our present day life. Hello, Antonio. Hello, Allison. Welcome. All right, so let's take a look here at some examples. In the first example, I can say, I used to live in Boston. So before I moved to Brazil, I used to live in Boston because that's where I went to college. Okay? Now, let's look here. When I see used to, after used to, we see live, which is my verb in the base, normal. It doesn't change, okay? So it's always used to with our verb in the base. Now, if I'm talking about my life in the past, I can say that I didn't used to live in Brazil because I used to live in Boston. Now, do you see something different between the positive and the negative example? What do you see that's different? Let's see in the comments if you can figure out exactly what's different here. Hello, Alini. Hello, Allison. Welcome. So what do you see is different here between the positive and the negative example? I used to live in Boston, or I didn't used to live in Brazil. What do you see here is different? Didn't. Okay, good. So with the negative, we have to use didn't. Correct. Good. What else do you guys see? The ed. Perfect. Good. So in the positive, we use used to. So I used to live in Boston. So we spell U-S-E-D and then to. However, in the negative, we don't say used with the D. We only say use, okay? So I didn't used to live in Brazil, okay? So remember, every time we speak in the negative, we use didn't and then we use used to, but without the D. All right, I think we had a little bit of a lapse or something, but I think we're okay. All right, good. So in the negative form, remember that we use didn't and then we have used to, okay? Now let's look at a question. For example, I can ask you, did you used to live in another state? Now, I used to live in another country, right? I lived in America, now I live in Brazil. But what about you guys? Did you used to live in another state? Let's see some answers. So, if we want to answer this question, did you used to live in another state? I can say, yes, I did, or no, I didn't. What about you guys? The state that you currently live in, is it the state that you were born? Or did you used to live in another state? Jose says, no, I didn't. Jose says, always been here in Minas Gerais. Lisandra, yes, I did. Gabriel, yes. Alberto, no. Lisandra and Gabriel, where did you used to live? A lot of people are staying in the same state, not moving around too much. Tiago says, I used to live in Paraíba. Ah, very nice. Excellent. Good job. Giovanna says, no. So, Giovanna, we would want to say, no, I didn't used to live. Ah, you retracted your comment. But correct. Good. Gabriel has lived in Espírito Santo. Ah, very nice. I didn't used to live anywhere else. Excellent, Anna. Good. All right, good job, guys. Exactly. Now, you'll also see here that when we're making the question, we use did and then we use used to. Okay? So, once again, no D. All right? So, we only use used to with the D in the positive example. We don't use it in the negative or the interrogative. Okay? So always remember to keep mind of this. Now, however, when we are speaking and when we speak very fast, we tend to drop the D. So sometimes people get confused because, for example, when I speak, I say, I used to live in Boston. It sounds like use, U-S-E, but really it's U-S-E-D. Because we're speaking at a fast pace that we tend to drop the D, because when it's D with the T, when those two continents are next to each other, they tend to come together and blend the sound, so you don't really hear it. So that's why it's really important to be aware of this grammar structure, that in the positive, we still have to add the D to use to, even though we don't pronounce it when we are speaking. All right, excellent. Lisandra used to live in Minas Gerais, João Lavage, while they used to live in São Paulo. Very nice. I've been to João Lavage a few times to visit the Seed School, and it's very nice. But I've never been to São Paulo. I'm hoping to go one day. I'm surprised I haven't gone yet, but I heard it's very nice. Actually, I've only been to São Paulo, but in the airport to make connections internationally. But I would like to go there to walk around the city and see. Now, let's see. Anna asks a question. What's the most common way to speak about habits in the present? Allison says John Malavash is not very nice. All right, very good. Anna, so what kind of habits are you referring to? Can you give me an example? Or can you give an example in Portuguese, and then I can help you to understand it better? All right, let's take a look here at these questions. Now, I want you to tell me, what is a food that you used to hate, but now you like? What is a food that you used to hate, but now you like? For example, when I was a child, I used to hate eating broccoli. I hated eating those green trees. No, I didn't like it at all. But now it's one of my favorite vegetables. Giovanna asks, where do I live? I live in Caratinga, in Minas Gerais, currently. Walter says, all types of salads. Very good. Excellent. So you weren't a big salad eater. Good. I used to hate cheese, but now I love it. Very good. I like cheese too. Couve. Yes, actually, I don't know the translation for couve either. Let me see here if I can pull it up real quick. But I don't like to eat couve. Cabbage. So couve in English is cabbage. All right, good. What else, guys? Beets. Good. I used to hate Japanese food, but now I love it. Yes, this is very common, right? A lot of people, when they eat Japanese food for the first time, they don't like it. I think because of the texture, it's very different. But then after they try it a few more times, they become more accustomed to it, and then most people tend to like it in the end. Joseus, I used to hate vegetables in general, but now I love it. Good. Vegetables are good. It's a good thing that you changed your mind and now you like it. Very good. Excellent. Guilherme says, I didn't like tea, but nowadays I love it. Good. All right, good examples, guys. Now, remember, when we're answering these questions, try to make the complete phrase using the grammar structure that we just learned. For example, I didn't used to like tea, but now I love it. Or I can say, I used to hate drinking tea, but now I love it. Very good. Some people like Japanese food from the very beginning. I was one of those people. I liked it from the very beginning as well. I used to hate beets, but now I like them. Good. I used to hate onions, but now I have been eating it a lot. Very good. Excellent. For me, I like onions, but I like the cooked onions. I don't like to eat raw onions. Onions that are not cooked. But very good. Excellent. Now, I want you guys to make the negative. What is a food that you didn't used to like, but eat now? All right. So, for example, I didn't used to like, let me think. Can be a food, can be a drink. I can say, for example, I didn't used to like wine, but now I like sweet wine. Only sweet wine. I don't like the wine that's very bitter. So Antonio asks, what are beets? So beets are, I think in Portuguese you call them beterrabas. It's like the little red vegetable. I'm pretty sure it's beterraba. Let me check here. Yes, beterrabas. Good. All right. So let's see. Shona says, I used to hate liver, but now I eat them whenever I can. Ah, liver. I've never had liver, actually. But I heard it's good. What else, guys? What are some foods that you didn't used to like? Some foods, some drinks. Let's see here. I didn't used to like papaya, but now I like it. Good. I didn't used to like gilot. Yes, I don't think gilot has an English translation. Yes, it doesn't translate in English, but I know what you're talking about. But I still don't like it. I tried it a couple of times. I didn't used to like beans. Tatiana, you didn't used to like beans. What kind of Brazilian are you? Just kidding. Oh, Brazilians love rice and beans. For me, this is so surprising because in America, we never eat rice and beans. Never. It's very, very rare. And here in Brazil, you eat it like twice a day with every meal. People in Brazil love rice and beans. I didn't used to like beer, but today I really love it. Good. Beer is definitely an acquired taste. I still don't like beer. I wish I did because it's cheaper than a lot of other drinks, but still don't. I didn't used to like, Gabriella says, I didn't used to like corn. Good. But now she eats it. Excellent. Let's see. Alini says she searched gilo on the internet and got an eggplant. But I believe that eggplant is a berinjela. So I don't know if gilo and berinjela are the same thing, but eggplant is berinjela in Portuguese. All right. I didn't used to like caipirinha, but now I always drink it. Jose is a man after my own heart. I love caipirinhas. They are my favorite drink in Brazil. I think it's wonderful. It's so delicious. All right, good job, guys. Now, let's take a look at the next tense. So the next tense that we can use to tell stories is the past perfect. So, we use the past perfect to describe something that happened before an action described using the simple past. So we use had or hadn't and then the past participle. All right. For example, I can say, I had lived in Boston before I moved to Brazil. Okay. So first, I lived in Boston. And then after, I moved to Brazil. So I had lived in Boston before I moved to Brazil. If we want to speak in the negative, I can say I hadn't been to Brazil. So he showed me around Rio de Janeiro. So for example, the first time I came to Brazil, I hadn't been here before. So my husband showed me around Rio de Janeiro so that I can see the touristic do sightseeing, so to see the tourist attractions, for example, Christ the Redeemer, Pão de Açúcar, Copacabana. All right. And then if we want to ask a question, we can say, for example, where had she traveled? All right. So always remember, when speaking in the past perfect, we have to use had or hadn't with the past participle. Now, let's take a look here. What had you thought when you started studying English? What are some thoughts that you had? Good example, Antonio. So Antonio says, I had lived in Espírito Santo before I came to Minas Gerais. Excellent. Good. All right, so tell me, what are some thoughts that you had when you started studying English? For example, I had thought that it would take me 5 years to learn the language. Or I had thought that it would be very difficult to study. What are some thoughts that you first had when you started studying English? I know, for example, when I started studying Portuguese, I had thought it was very difficult. I still think it's pretty difficult. But I don't know, I had thought that since I knew some things in Spanish, because in America, when we study a second language, we typically study Spanish. And I thought, Spanish is a little bit similar to Portuguese. Maybe I will be able to understand it quickly. Wasn't the case. It's very different. Let's see. Antonio says, I had thought that I need to learn that to travel. Good. Excellent. So Antonio had thought that he needed to learn English to travel the world. Good. Lizandra says, I had thought it would be so difficult and I didn't like it. All right, good job, guys. Excellent. All right, let's take a look here at the past perfect continuous. Now, past perfect continuous. We use the past perfect continuous to describe an action which started in the past and continued up into another point in the past. Now, the biggest thing is that the point emphasized is on the activity in the time before the interruption actually took place. So, for example, I use had and then been with verb with ing. All right. A few classes ago, we went over this a little bit using gerunds with our verbs with ing. So, in this structure, we have to use had been with a verb with ing. The biggest thing to remember is that we want to emphasize, really draw attention to the time that this happened. So let's look here. For example, I can say, I had been living in Brazil for 6 months before I started teaching at Seed. All right. So in Brazil, I had been living here for 6 months. So here we see the amount of time that I had been living in Brazil. I really emphasize it, 6 months. And then before, what happened? Before I started teaching at Seed. All right. In the negative, we say, I hadn't been sleeping for more than 30 minutes when there was a knock at the door. So I hadn't been sleeping for more than 30 minutes. So an emphasis on the time, 30 minutes, when there was a knock at the door. Had it been waiting for, sorry, it shouldn't be it. Had you been waiting for your package to arrive since this morning? Had you been waiting for your package to arrive since this morning? For example, I ordered something on Mercado Libre a few weeks ago. And then I have been trying to see when my package is going to wait. And I update the app every day. And then they just say, it's en route for delivery, And then it never arrives. So I can ask the question, had you been waiting for your package to arrive since this morning? Now here we don't have an actual amount of time, but we do say since this morning. So it's still drawing emphasis on a period of time, which was this morning. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments. Antonia says this is so difficult. Yes. Oh, the past perfect and the past perfect continuous, as well as the past continuous, tend to be a little bit more difficult. But fear not, we're going to do some practice here, and then I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to pass you the homework through Telegram, and then you'll be able to do some examples as well as to test yourself to see really what you understand, what you don't understand, and then you'll see the answers for better reference. But if you still have doubts afterwards, feel free to send me a message and I can continue to try to help you to understand it better. Let's see, Alberto says, I had been working for 25 years when I retired. Good, excellent. So Alberto, we just want to remember that everything stays in the past. So after the when phrase, we still have to keep it in the past. So when I retired, because it has to be in the past with the D. Max says, I had been studying English for 2 years before studying abroad. Very nice. Good example, Max. Where did you study abroad? What country? Is this a true phrase? I hope so. Studying abroad is supposed to be an amazing experience. Excellent. Isabella says she had thought it would be boring to learn English before she started to study with her friends. Yes, sometimes it's difficult to get involved in something if it's just you doing it. But if you get a group together, then it's more fun. Max, you studied in London. So nice. Very good. Excellent. It's a great place. I've traveled to London once, but just on vacation, but I really enjoyed it. It's almost like a New York City, but with castles. So it's really nice because it has like the back history aspect of it, and then has like the modern aspect of it too. So it's a really nice place. All right. You want to know a funny story? I'll tell you guys a funny story. This is random, but I'll tell you a funny story. Oh, when I traveled to London, I went when I was in high school. And then when I went, I was speaking to some people and they say, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from the United States. I'm from New Jersey, And they're like, that's nice. Like, so you speak American? It's like, I speak American. It's like, no, I speak English. They're like, no, I speak English. You speak American. Because English from England is very different from American English. So the British English is very different from American English. And they really want to emphasize that this is different. So sometimes they say that Americans speak American instead of English. I thought it was funny. Can you imagine? All right. Yes. All right. Good job, guys. So let's look here. So let's try this example here. What had you been doing for 1 hour before and then another event happened? For example, I had been studying for 1 hour before my phone rang. All right. So I had been studying, verb with ing, for 1 hour before, and then I put my other event in the past, before my phone rang. Jose says it's like a Portuguese person asking us, do you speak Brazilian? Yes, it's exactly the same thing, right? Yes? Because you're like, no, I speak Portuguese. Like, no, I speak Portuguese. You speak Brazilian, because it's very different. Excellent. All right, let's take a look here at some examples. I had been studying for 1 hour before my English test started. Perfect. Good example, Janice. Alberto says, I had been watching series for 1 hour before my class started. Good. Series are a good way to relax during the quarantine. Definitely a good way to relax before class. Antonio says, I had been playing games before the classes started. Perfect. Excellent. So we just want to remember, Antonio, that we have to put emphasis on a time, all right? So whenever we use had been with the verb with ing, we have to stress a time. So for example, I had been playing games for 3 hours before the class started, all right? Or I had been playing games since this afternoon before the class started. So remember to always put an emphasis on the time. Same thing with Giovanna. I had been working out before the class started. Giovanna, very, very good, very fit. I need to get fit one day. So same thing, Giovanna. So we want to really stress the time. So I had been working out for 45 minutes before our classes started. Okay. I had been having lunch for 1 hour before I started to write. Good, Tatiana. So we want to say, for example, we would say, I had been having lunch for 1 hour before I started to write. Good. Isabel says, I had been cleaning the house before I started to watch this class. Good. Excellent. Remember stressing the time. All right. Good job. Good job, guys. So remember, every time that we use had been with our verb with ing, we want to really stress the amount of time that we were doing this event or this action in the past. All right. So remember, it doesn't have to be a physical number of time. For example, 1 hour, 4 days. It can be, yes, but you can also use, for example, since and then a period of time. Since yesterday morning. Okay. I had been playing poker before the class started. Good example, Walter. But for how much time? How long? How long were you playing poker? All right. So we always want to remember that when we're talking about this, you want to see if you can answer the question, for how long? For how long should always be addressed in your answer. Jose says, I had been working before I started watching the class. Good. Excellent. Same thing, Jose, is for how long? How long had you been working? I had been working for 8 hours. Or I had been working since this morning before I started watching this class. I had been having coffee for some minutes before the class started. Excellent. Good example, Anna Laura. Perfect. All right. Now let's look at the past continuous. Now here, this is very similar to what we just talked about, which was the past perfect continuous. All right, so let's see exactly how these are different. Now, the past continuous describes an action which began in the past but was interrupted. It was momentarily stopped by another action, by another later action in the past. So it shows a longer action that is stopped by a shorter action in the past. So here we always use was or were, depending upon the subject, with our verb with ing. Now let's remember, was. I was. You were. He, she, it was. We were. They were. All right, so always remember when we use was and were, depending upon the subject, it's going to change. All right, good job. Alberto says, I was sleeping when my uncle called me. Very good. Good example. Good example, Alberto. So we just want to make sure that everything stays in the past. So I was sleeping when my uncle called me, because it happened in the past, so call has to be in the past with ed. But you're correct, and it's very similar to my example that I chose as well. So good ideas. All right, so let's take a look here at our positive example. I can say, you were studying when she called. All right, so you were studying when she called. So here we have were, because my subject is you. And then our verb with ing, studying. So what happened first? What was interrupted? The call or studying? What was interrupted? What action was interrupted in my example? You were studying when she called. So in this example, studying was interrupted. So this was something that I was doing for a long time. I was studying, and then it was interrupted by a short action, which was her call. All right, let's see some of the examples. Antonia says, I was eating rain cakes before this class. What are rain cakes? I don't know what this is. Is it good? Let's see here. Max says, I was taking a nap before my dog started to barking out loud. Ah, yes, Max. I'm always sleeping and my dogs always wake me up too. I'm sure you probably heard them a couple times during our previous classes as well. Sometimes they like to bark. But Max, to correct your phrase, we would say, I was taking a nap before my dog started to bark out loud. Or we can say before my dog started barking out loud. So if you want to use the gerund barking, then you don't need the preposition to before. So you can either say to bark out loud or barking out loud. Jose says, I was relaxing when my wife asked me to do the dishes. Ah, Jose, but it's good you're helping with household chores, right? Very good. Anna says, I was watching music videos when my phone ran out of battery. That's so sad when that happens, right? Good. Gabrielle says, I was watching live on Instagram when the class started. Good. Good examples, guys. So, now here, let's see. When I use this past continuous, was or were with our verb with ing, am I really emphasizing the amount of time or how long I had been doing something? In these examples, am I emphasizing the amount of time? Yes or no? Let me see in the comments. Ah, Max, no problem, as long as you know. No, very good. Excellent. Good job, guys. So that's the biggest difference between using the past continuous as well as the what we saw before, which was the past perfect continuous. So remember, when we use the structure had been with verb with ing, we are talking about events that happened in the past. It was stopped because another event in the past happened. But the biggest thing we want to focus on is the time. Okay? Whereas just in the normal past continuous, we use was or were with our verb with ing. Once again, something happened in the past, a long action. It was stopped or interrupted because the shorter action happened. But the biggest thing is that we don't emphasize the time. Okay? Now, for example, negative, I can say you weren't watching TV when she called. So, you were studying when she called. You weren't watching TV. All right? And then if I want to ask a question, we can say, for example, was she studying English when he called? Now, if I have this answer, was she studying English when he called? If I have this question, how do I give my yes or no answer? Do I say yes? Yes what? Yes she was? Or yes she's studying? How would I answer this question? Was she studying English when he called? Would I say yes she was or yes she studying? Oh. Guys, hold on. I think we froze for a minute. Let's see here. Let's see, are we back? All right, I think we're good to go. How would I answer this question? Yes, she was, or yes, she's studying? Let's see in the comments, guys. How would I answer this question? Was she studying English when he called? Yes, she was. Or, yes, she's studying. All right, guys, I think we're back. Yes? Good? Please? I hope so. All right, we're back. Good. All right, sorry about that, guys. I don't know why we're having some technical difficulties sometimes with these servers and these connections late at night, so I apologize. All right, let's look here. Now, let's look at the last example, the question. Was she studying English when he called? So if I look at this and I ask this question, was she studying English when he called? How would I answer this question? Yes, she was, or yes, she studying? Leave a message in the comments. What do you guys think? How would I answer this question? Yes, she was, or yes, she studying? Let's see. She was. Perfect. Excellent. Good. So, always remember that when we start the phrase with was or were, we want to answer it with the short answer using was or were. For example, yes, she was, or no, she wasn't. All right? Good. Perfect. All right. Now, let's look here. What were you doing yesterday when another event happened? For example, yesterday I was teaching our class, teaching English class, when the internet froze. Okay? Yesterday I was teaching English when the internet froze. Put in the comments, what was something you were doing yesterday when another event happened? Now remember, in this example, you do not emphasize the time, okay? So here we're just saying yesterday, but I'm not saying for how long I was doing this action, okay? Let's see, Alberto says, I was watching Marilia Mendoza when my internet failed. Ah, yes, I heard a lot of people were watching that. I was reading my book when my mother arrived at home. Good, excellent, Giovanna. Good books. It's very good to read. What do you enjoy reading? What kind of books? Lysandra says, yesterday I was working out when my cell phone rang. Oh, Lysandra, you work out a lot every day. Very good. Antonia says, yesterday I was watching Marilla's live when the internet went down. Ah, see, a lot of people had a problem with this live too. Tatiana says, yesterday I was watching The Handmaid's Tale when my mother called. I actually never saw that, but I heard it's very, very, very good. Excellent. Anna Lara says, yesterday I was going for a walk when it started to rain. Very good. Yes, we had a lot of rain here yesterday in Caratinga as well. The past few days, actually, we've had a lot of rain, unfortunately. All right, good job. Let's see. Isabel says, yesterday I was playing video games when the dinner started. Good. So, in this example, Isabel, we wouldn't need the, okay? So just yesterday I was playing video games with S, or a video game. You can say if you want it to be singular. When dinner started. All right, good. Lara says, I was watching a movie when I suddenly slept. Good, Lara. So we can say, I was watching a movie when I suddenly fell asleep. So we would say fell asleep instead of slept. But good. All right, excellent. Good job, guys. So, today we went through a lot of different tenses. So we went through 4 major tenses. We reviewed used to, the past perfect continuous, as well as the past continuous. So we can use all of these to talk about stories, and we can use them together to talk about things that happened in the past to make our stories sound a lot more interesting and engaging for the person who we're speaking to. So I hope you all enjoyed tonight's content. That's all for this evening. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a message here. I think some of you asked a couple of questions that I wasn't able to address during the presentation. If so, I will go through and review the questions, and I will update them on our Telegram account, okay? So I'll make sure I address any questions that were not answered that you left in comments. I will address in our Telegram group, okay? After today's class, I will send for you the content, this presentation, so that you can review it for future reference. And I'll also send you some worksheets that you can do to test your understanding of these 4 different grammar structures. All right. It's going to look like a lot of homework because we did review 4 major grammar structures. But take a look. You don't have to do every single question. Take a look at some ones that you think are more difficult than others and give it a try. But always remember, it's important to practice. All right. So nobody's going to get better overnight. We need to continue to practice, and that's going to be all. If you guys are free tonight at 10 p.m., I hope that you will join us at Seed Idiomas on our Instagram live. We're going to be having Kaye, who's the coordinator at Jean Lavage, and Ty, who is a fellow American who's currently in the United States. And they're going to be talking about a variety of topics, and it's a lot of fun and very interactive. So if you have free time, I hope you'll join us. And then until then, I will see you guys next Tuesday at 7 o'clock for our next class. All right, great job, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Oh, one more thing. If you aren't a member of our Telegram group yet, I'm going to leave the link in the comments so that you can join our Telegram group to get the information, all right? Where can you find the lessons? So, Tatiana, you can download Telegram, which is an app. You can download it on your cell phone. I'll send you the link. Join our group, and then you can have access to these lessons, as well as on our YouTube channel, Seed Idiomas. You can review any of our previous classes as well, and tonight's lesson. All right, that's all, guys. Thank you so much. I will put the link here below, and I hope to see you again during our next class next week. Bye-bye. Have a good night.